Om Ajnana Timandasya Jnanjana Shanaka Shakshon Militam Yena Tasmai Shigove Namah. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatarani. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So this morning we will continue with the Bhakta class, and we start with speaking about the 4 regulative principles that so there are 4 pillars upon which society rests. So this is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam in the last chapters of the first canto. Maharaj Pariksit is punishing Kali. And there these 4 principles are explained. They are also explained in the Vedas that all yogis follow these principles. Without following these principles, our heart becomes contaminated by lust, and you cannot make spiritual advancement. So these 4 principles are first, they are mercy, doya, truthfulness, satyam, austerity, tapasya, and cleanliness, saucham. So these are the basic principles of religion. These are our basic religious principles. Sometimes the Buddhists say we are following 8 noble truths. We are following these 4 pillars, and if we break them, that we destroy these pillars, and this is destroying humanity, Prabhupada says. And we see in the world everywhere where that is not followed, then there is disaster. Of course, it's not easy to follow these principles in the beginning. It's a gradual process, but we should as soon as possible come to following. I speak more about that. So the first is being compassionate. You cannot be compassionate if you eat meat, fish, and eggs, because if we are killing animals, that's very cruel, and that cruelty enters our heart. It enters our heart. So here it is said, killing animals destroys the quality of mercy. One turns one's body into a graveyard by consuming dead animals. These foods are saturated with the modes of passion and ignorance, and therefore cannot be offered to the Lord. A person who eats these foods participates in a conspiracy of violence against helpless animals, and thus curtails his spiritual progress. You see many times friends of animals. They are friends of animals, but not when they eat. But they eat them and they kill them. Oh, it's just hypocrisy. It's a big hypocrisy, and the whole world is turning around that. And it has heavy karmic reactions. The world is on the verge of mass destruction today. It can happen every moment. By the global tensions, Even everyone can see that and why is that? They killed millions and millions and millions of animals, and that's coming back. And that, but no eating meat, fish, or eggs. It becomes very difficult in society. Whatever you cook, you buy in in the supermarket, which is processed food. It contains so many different substances, and many are of animal sources. That they are from, yeah. So we have to be very careful. Don't buy processed fruits. You break the four regulative principles. It happens so easy. And they put on their packages, yeah, there's natural flavors, but it comes from animals or other things. So buy vegetables, things that are not processed, because it's very dangerous. That everything that is packed in this Tetra Pak and so on, it contains preservatives, and these preservatives, yeah, are many times not vegan or vegetarian. Then the next is no gambling. Truthfulness is destroyed by gambling. Gambling turns a person into a liar, a cheat. Gambling invariably puts one into anxiety and fuels greed, envy and anger. This is gross, but you have also an truthfulness is also subtle. When you act as being the body, you are not truthful because you are the soul. That if you accept so-called scientific theories, which are just theories, with change, you are gambling. It's not truthfulness. So this is also very subtle. And then it said no use of intoxicants. We know many arguments against the use of intoxicants. It's not a very difficult thing to understand. Anyone with a sane mind will accept taking intoxicants is physically, mentally, and spiritually bad, it said. Yes, but it destroys the principle of austerity. No tapas anymore. We need tapas. We need determination. It takes your determination away. That people who take drugs, yeah, they want to avoid suffering, but they suffer. Their suffering comes later, and it's that. So they do not want to face austerity. Drugs, alcohol, tobacco, as well as they drink or food, contained caffeine, cloud the mind, overstimulate the senses, and make it impossible to follow the principles of Bhakti Yoga. So here, no use of intoxicants. It is said in chocolate, there are also intoxicants, caffeine and so on. They are equal to that. And Prabhupada said, don't drink them, don't eat them. Don't take a chocolate drink made by cacao beans. It's the same thing. You can read that in Prabhupada's, in Harisari Prabhu's book. He writes about that in his diaries. That so intoxicants. If you eat too much sugar, it's also an intoxicant. If you have too much sweets, it has the same effect as alcohol. So we should be very moderate in eating sweets. So this, because you will see if you do, your mind becomes weak. You cannot control your mind anymore. The urges to eat sweets and all these things, it comes up very strong. So it must be taken in moderation, sweets. And then no illicit sex. Cleanliness is destroyed by illicit sex. This is sex outside marriage or sex in marriage for other purposes than procreation. Yeah, at a certain time, devotees started a petition to change the four regulative principles and have only three. And that principle of sex and that illicit sex, they wanted to change the definition. That's illicit sex is only sex outside of marriage. But illicit sex can also be there within marriage. That if it's not for the purpose of procreation. Therefore, Grihasthas mostly man and wife, husband and wife, they don't sleep in the same bed. It's too, the forces of material nature are very, very strong. The sex for pleasure compels one to identify with the body and prevents one from understanding Krishna consciousness. It's a fact. The scriptures teach us that sex is the most powerful force binding us to the material world. Any one union for conceiving child to be raised in Krishna consciousness is an act to devotion to him. Lord Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. I'm sex which is applied for procreation of children. So by following these principles, you are not repressing yourself, but elevating yourself to a superior platform. Outsiders says, oh, these Hare Krishnas, poor people. They cannot drink, they cannot enjoy sex life. They don't eat meat. They miss all the. They are missing all the pleasures of life. Poor people. But Hare Krishna devotees who follow this, they have spiritual strength. And they are not controlled by material nature, at least not in ways that others are. So they have a much greater freedom. And that should be understood. These are principles of freedom, not of restriction. Okay. That's about the four regulative principles. Chapter 9, Srila Prabhupada. So this is very important that, Ambarish Prabhu, yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. Maharaj, just have one question regarding practicing mercy, no meat eating. Sometimes I see that people who eat meat, especially from the Western bodies, they are displaying more mercy than people who are eating just vegetables. So is there a difference between compassion and mercy?
It depends what you mean. What you mean that Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport of the first verse of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and that he said, moment, I will read it for you. That good to have the reference here. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. You can be very compassionate for the body. Nice. The more meat you eat, the more you think you have the body. So like I had my boss in the home for retired people. He was saying, yes, the person is going to die, so give him some liquor. That was his compassion. But it's destroying the person, because they drink liquor and they die in ignorance. They become an animal. That's the gift. That's the compassion. So what's the result of their compassion? It's very uncompassionate, the result. Factually, no, transcendental viewpoint.
Makes sense, Maharaj. Thank you. It's a very simple thing. Thank you.
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada, oh, Juan Mahindra, okay, go on. Yes.
Maharaj, I have a few questions from the previous chapter, if I may.
Yeah.
So, my first question is, like nowadays, 90% of the food having a preservative, starting from vegetables to the fruits to the milk to the cheese. So, what is your suggestion? What kind of food we have and we should avoid in the service of Krishna?
Yeah. My suggestion is you go to the market and buy fresh vegetables, fresh potatoes, fresh tomatoes, and try to get them as much as possible organic, bio, as pure as possible. Be careful with all the rest. The, the, that yeah, that's. But finally, we may not be able to prevent, because it's so subtle, and everything is contaminated in Kali Yuga.
Right. So, we should avoid frozen vegetables, frozen fruits. Mostly, we should avoid them, right?
These fruits, yeah, sure. These frozen things, that's in the mode of ignorance. That's dangerous. Also in tins and so on, cans. It's all. It produces cancer. So many things. We have to be more health conscious. Therefore, Prabhupada wanted to have our own farms and our own produce and so on. That brings in the need for varnashram and so on. But of course, we can only strive for that. That purity is difficult to get into this age. But if you eat pure, then pure vegetables, pure things, and yeah, our health will be preserved. But evening rains and so on, it's difficult today. There, especially in India, they are using so many pesticides and unnatural fertilizers. It's all poison practically, and so it becomes very, very difficult to get pure things. And then let us not speak about what is genetically modified. It's without end. You buy a vegetable, but I'm not sure it's vegetarian.
Right.
It's, so, yes.
Mm,
All right. So, sorry.
A couple of years ago, I went to one of the farm. It was apple farm, and the farmer told us that he's using chicken bones in the soil
Yeah.
to bring some minerals and everything. So we are plucking up apple, but the soil has chicken bones in it.
Yeah, they produce also refined white sugar like this. Bones are also used.
Yeah.
So many things. And anyway, we have to be more and more health conscious that as this age proceeds. Good, something else?
Yeah, Amars, sometime in order to save time, in the temple we also use the can or the stuff like that. Sometimes frozen fruit, frozen vegetables, or the canned tomatoes. So should we avoid those things as well?
We strive to offer to Krishna everything first class. That is our that if I'm using this thing, it's second class, third class. That we have to see according to time, place, and circumstances.
Right.
Sometimes it's difficult to avoid, but we try to avoid. It causes also much more service to clean all the beans and so on, and it's easy to buy it in the store from the deep freeze. That yeah, but okay, that's it's the more service, the more bhakti we put into it. In that. Which
Right.
choice is up to us, but we must be practical also and make it possible. That yeah. Hmm.
And my second one is like I know a few people who claim that I mean they are in austerity, not in the Krishna consciousness, but in some sort of other, and they claim that by having some intoxication like marijuana, it helped them focusing on the name, and I seen them like after having like that intoxicating stuff, they chant for like hours, like 3 hours and 4 hours, but I know it's totally wrong. How can I help them?
First, if you want to help them, then the first question is, do they want to be helped by you? If not, don't do it. Don't try to instruct someone who does not want to be instructed by you. Krishna says that at the end of the Gita. Don't explain this secret to those who are not devotees, to those who are not austere. Those who take intoxicants lose their austerity. So Krishna says, don't do it. You can try, but the reaction can be very heavy. That, of course, devotees try to be more merciful than Krishna, but it doesn't work out always. But,
Thank you,
okay,
Maharaj.
thank you. So yeah, Prabhupada, this is very important that Prabhupada is our spiritual master. The ISKCON Guru is just representative of Prabhupada. But everything in our movement is centered on Prabhupada, and we need all to deepen our relationship with Prabhupada, pray to Prabhupada, and therefore we must get to know Prabhupada. Prabhupada disciples and also myself are a little worried that Prabhupada will be sidelined in the future. And we will focus only on our Guru Maharaj or whoever we think we are guide. But that's very dangerous. Nobody in our movement is on the level of Prabhupada. They may even be pure devotees, but they are not on the level of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was empowered by Lord Chaitanya. That's mentioned in Chaitanya Mangal, written by Lochandas Thakur, who is one of Lochandas Thakur wrote Chaitanya Mangal, and Chaitanya Mangal is one of the 11 biographies written on Lord Chaitanya. And there, Lochandas Thakur writes that Lord Chaitanya said that in the future, if someone escapes, in the future, he said, I will send my Senapati Bhakta, my expert field commander, who will spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And that is there. And who spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? Srila Prabhupada. So he was specially empowered by Krishna to do that. And therefore, all his teachings are the pure teachings, and all the other ISKCON gurus are like lamps with different identity. One is more advanced than the other, but nobody is equal to Prabhupada. They are only representing Prabhupada. It's important we get to know Prabhupada, Prabhupada's history, how he came to the West, what endeavor he made, what obstacles he went through, his translation of the Bhagavatam, that is commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, that is travel on the Jaladutta. Therefore, all devotees, even before they take initiation, they should read the biography of Prabhupada. We have the small version, at least that, but I recommend everyone to read the entire Prabhupada Lilamrita. Because by reading that, we will understand how to bring the principles from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam in the practice of our life. I remember my own Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charamaj, when just they made the Prabhupada Lilamrita in one book, and it just came out middle of the 90s. And in Mayapur, every morning, instead of the Bhagavatam class, he was reading from Prabhupada Lilamrita. He said that this is the person Bhagavat. That the other is the book Bhagavat, but this is the person Bhagavat. The one who he brings the Bhagavatam alive. His life was the example of the Bhagavatam. So we need to connect with Prabhupada. This is very important. And to know him and to know his life story. I went to New York. I used to preach there regularly. I went to 26 Second Avenue, where he started, gave lectures there. You can understand how Prabhupada started the movement there. And Tompkins Square Park, which is just at the corner, that we do twice a week there now, prasadam distribution. The tree under which Prabhupada started chanting, there's a nice plaque on it, and it's a place of pilgrimage for the devotees. So Prabhupada is how we spread the Krishna consciousness movement, how he gave us ISKCON. In Nectar of Devotion, we have 5 most potent items of devotional service, and that is chanting the holy name, reading Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the scriptures, deity worship, association of devotees, and that living in a temple, a holy dham. And Prabhupada created all these temples where we can together execute these 5 most important items of devotional service. And it's a very powerful program. And we should never neglect it to do that, to perform this program. He gave us ISKCON because without association of devotees, you cannot make spiritual advancement. He gave us everything. As long as we put Prabhupada in the center, this ISKCON movement will go on. Therefore, he created a GBC to keep them globally, to put Prabhupada in the center, and not certain gurus. Sometimes you hear certain disciples say, I'm only hearing about from my spiritual master is as good as hearing from Prabhupada. But that's wrong. We should keep putting Prabhupada in the center. Because today Prabhupada is still preaching. ISKCON is his body. And we are distributing his books. Can you change the heart of someone with your 2 minutes preaching? No. But you can give the person a book. And then the person reads the book and becomes a devotee. It's a mercy of Prabhupada. This is how we come. Most of us has come to this movement. It's through these books. Therefore, Prabhupada has his mission. And it's not easy to make spiritual advancement. You need a lot of mercy. But when we engage in his mission, Krishna will give mercy. That's the shortcut. He gave us the mission, which brings us back to Godhead. That at least much quicker than you have to please the spiritual master to make spiritual advancement. And that's a very important principle in devotional service. So you have here the story of Prabhupada, the history, and I will read it. That's what's noted here, but as I say, we should look more deeply in it. That regularly to focus on Prabhupada. Like in Radhadesh, there's a temple here in Belgium. Every Monday, instead of Bhagavatam class, is reading of Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita. Every Monday. And every Thursday, we hear a class of Prabhupada. And after that, have a discussion on the class. That's 2 times a week, Prabhupada. And every day we should sing the Guru Puja. Whether you go to the temple or not, include it in your morning program. Chant the prayer. Even in your mind, but chant a prayer to the Guru Vandana. Because we need that mercy. So by that we put Prabhupada in the center of our life. When I met Bhakti Charma, it's my spiritual master, who passed away 5 years ago, he said to me, I'm not a spiritual master, but the only thing I can do is I can connect you with Prabhupada. But that is the purpose of the spiritual master. That's his role, to connect you with Prabhupada, explain the teachings of Prabhupada, and how to practice them in life. So that Prabhupada is a founder acharya. They call it the Premant Siksha Guru, but Yeah, he is our founder acharya, and we need to follow always his instructions. His instructions, his books are the basis, are the laws of our movement. So I will just read it. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada appeared in this world in 1896 in Calcutta, India. He first met his spiritual master Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami in Calcutta in 1922. Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, a prominent religious scholar and the founder of 64 Gaudiya Maths Vedic institutes, liked this educated young man and convinced him to dedicate his life to teaching Vedic knowledge. Srila Prabhupada became a student in 1933, his formally initiated disciple. So that's interesting, there's 11 years between. But even as Bhakta Abai, he was giving lectures in the temple. That devotees wanted to give him to give lectures. So he met him in 1922. Prabhupada was 26. In 1933 got initiation. He was 37 when he got initiated. Interesting. At their first meeting in 1922, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati immediately asked him, "You are an intelligent young man. Why don't you preach the message of Lord Chaitanya in English?" This request was to be the driving force in Srila Prabhupada's life. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave this instruction to Prabhupada and his friend. He said, "You are an educated young man. You should preach the message of Lord Chaitanya." And Prabhupada was a follower of Gandhi and said, "How can we preach if this country is still controlled by the British? Is not independent?" And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, "This is not important. Rulers will come and go, but this is an urgent message. So we should preach the cult of Lord Chaitanya, the message of Lord Chaitanya." So yes, 11 years, but in the meantime he had his business. He was representative of a pharmaceutical company and he had his own pharmacy, first in Allahabad, in many places. But wherever he was supporting he was supporting the Gaudiya Math. But this is the meeting of his spiritual master, but Prabhupada's history starts much before. He was the son of Mohan De. His father was also a pure devotee. He was a cloth merchant in Calcutta. And during the day he was in his shop, and when nobody was there, he was reading the Bhagavata. And in the evening, he would cook some rice and put a bowl of rice on the floor and close the shop. So that the rats would eat the rice, the rice prasadam, that they would not eat the cloth. Anyway, a reporter asked Prabhupada, what was the earliest time when you became Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada gave an answer, astonishing answer. He said, I cannot remember any time that I was not Krishna conscious. What does that mean? That, yeah, he was an eternal associate of the Supreme Lord, sent to us to preach Krishna consciousness, that to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya. He was, his father, as a child, he was hearing, even as a baby, the ringing of the bell for the puja of his father. And every Sunday, every Sunday, regularly they went to the Muliks temple, which was at the other side from where they were living. And they had built, the Muliks were quite rich, and they were worshipping big Radha Govinda deities. And Prabhupada as a toddler, he could stand for hours gazing at Radha Govinda. Can you imagine? A child 4 or 5 years is restless, but he as a toddler, for hours, he stood gazing at the deities. That's amazing. I've been in the Malik's temple together with my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj. We visited all the places Prabhupada went to. It's Scottish College where he studied. The building was not there, still there at that time. The place where he had his pharmacy. Many other places we visited in Calcutta. But it's good. If you go to India, visit these places. We have also the place where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati instructed Prabhupada, gave these instructions to preach in the West. We have this place now, it's restored. You can visit it. Very nice. So this is the last instruction when Prabhupada met his spiritual master. Prabhupada wrote to his spiritual master, who was then passing his last days on the planet. In the letter, Prabhupada asked, is there any particular service I can do? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said in his reply that I am fully confident that you can explain in English our thoughts and arguments. I have every hope that you can turn yourself in a very good English preacher. Srila Prabhupada knew this was to be the mission of his life, and he started to prepare himself. So that means Prabhupada was 40 years old at that time. He started to prepare himself. And because before he wanted to make a lot of money with his business to support the mission, but by Krishna's grace, it didn't work out. His wife was also not very cooperative with his endeavor to engage in the mission. And at a certain time, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he appeared in his dream. 3 times he appeared, telling him you have to take sannyas. He found the idea horrible at first. But finally, Krishna forced him. At one moment, his business collapsed and they stole things and so on. And he was forcing to leave his family. So, and then afterwards, he went to Jhansi, started to start a center there. It didn't work out really, but he gave initiation to one devotee there in Jhansi. So the first was, he had already disciples before he came to the West. So he distributed this Bhakti Gottheit, which he started. Bhakta got it at that time because it was difficult to print it because there was practically no paper because of the Second World War. But he managed to print it regularly, and he was writing articles. Articles we find also in Shir's Upanishad. Many of the purports are part of these articles he wrote in his first back to Godhead. That because these articles, many in India were impersonalist, and this and impersonalists they are liking the Upanishads because they have an impersonal trend. But the She is Upanishad is just the opposite. It points to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he used the Ishopanishad to preach to these Mayavadis. And you can see that in these commentaries. It's very clear that, and he was distributing it in tea shops and so many places. And that, and then finally, he took sannyas, received sannyas from a god brother. And then after that, he went to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, there he was in the Radha Damodar temple, just before the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. And he was praying every day to Rupa Goswami, please empower me to go to the West. And he started to translate the first canto of the Bhagavatam. And he begged for donations and got it printed in Delhi. He had to go regularly to Delhi just to proofread because the printing was not digital as now. They had to set it with all the letters had to be set. Was a very big endeavor to print a book. When he was proofreading, and he found an artist who made paintings for the covers. On the first count of the cover, we have all these Vaikuntha planets, with the big planet Goloka Vrindavan in the middle with Radha Krishna. That was made by an artist. And when this first canto was ready, he went to Calcutta to Srimati Mukherjee, who was the director of a cargo ship company. And Srimati Mukherjee was a follower of Vallabha Acharya. And Prabhupada was teaching her the Bhagavatam. And he begged her for for a ticket on the Jaladuta, a place on the Jaladuta, to go to America. Because it's a cargo ship, but they had some place also for passengers. And she said to Prabhupada, but you will just die there, she said. You are too old for that. But finally she agreed, but then he needed a P form, and that's a form there that authorized him to travel to America. And on the P form, there should be a sponsor. And he found a sponsor, a man's son who was in Butler, Pennsylvania, in the United States. But after weeks, this P-form didn't come. And he went to the office speaking with the manager and said, and they didn't want to give him the P-form. And then he was waiting outside the building until the big boss would come. And he would speak with the big boss. And then a few days later, he got a P-form. And then finally, he went on the Jaladutta. It was his son Vrindavan. I met Vrindavan. He left his body 5 to 10 years ago, I think. But I met him at the Centennial, 1996, in Calcutta, speaking very favorably over ISKCON. And he brought his father to the Jaladutta. But then, when the Jaladutta began his journey on the Arabian Sea, there was a big storm, and he got two heart attacks. And he was thinking, if I get a third heart attack, I will not survive. But then Krishna appeared in his dream and said, and was assuring him that he would care for him. And then they went to the Suez Channel, and then they had the Mediterranean Sea and then the Atlantic Ocean. And Atlantic Ocean, the captain said, he had never seen it so calm. And finally they arrived in Boston, where Prabhupada wrote 2 poems. Bhagavatarka Marichi, the first is Markini Bhagavadharma. It's a poet wherein he writes, yes, they gave me the name Bhaktivedanta, but you can make it true. You can let me dance like a puppet on a string. You can I'm a hand in your mission. But how will I be able to explain these pure teachings of the Bhagavatam to those who are very sinful and are not following these regulative principles? How will I be able to do that? And the other prayer is a prayer to the lotus feet of Krishna. And in the refrain of that prayer, it said, yes, that my brother, if you want, you can only get the mercy of Krishna if you get the mercy of Radharani. And Srimati Radharani is, the spiritual master is a representative of Srimati Radharani. Very beautiful prayers. Prabhupada, so one of the 26 qualities of a pure devotee is that he is poetic. It's very, very poetic. And then, of course, then he was in Butler for 2 months, got to speak with some important people. Then he went back to New York. He was in the Bowery. I've been in the Bowery, but at that time it was a very, very low-grade place. He was translating his books there, and he was sharing a room with a drug addict and who became crazy and so many things. They stole his typewriter. So, but finally, he got some followers to his lectures, and he started to chant under that tree in Tompkins Square Park. And then finally 2632nd Avenue, there it started. And from there, the movement spread quite in 11 years, was very quick, over 6 continents, initiated 5,000 disciples or more. That and he founded ISKCON, the society we have today. Much more to say, but our time is over. Any last comment or question?
Thank you, Maharaj. We are also excited for your upcoming book as well.
Yeah,
on chanting.
that will take another year before it's ready for editing and then printing, but I have 14 chapters for the moment. We'll see.
Right.
Hare Krishna. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking forward
Maharaj,
to.
one thing we wanted to ask is during our Sunday programs or Saturday programs, sometimes Ekadashi falls on that day, and we do the Tulsi Aarti. So do we offer water on the day of Ekadashi if there is a program going on to Tulsi plant?
Yeah, why not? We offer
Okay.
still sit water. I don't see connection there. That's fine.
Okay. So because we got a different idea that okay, it's Ekadashi, so Tulsi plant is fasting, so you cannot offer water and
No. Tulsi is a residence of the spiritual world. They
okay.
they don't. For regulative principles and this fasting, that's for us here in the material world, as part of our sadhana to purify us. And she does not need purification. She's a resident of Vrindavan.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.